Live from downtown Detroit, Local 4 News at 11 starts now.
With former President Donald Trump coming to Oakland County this weekend to rally primary and caucus votes, the Michigan GOP finds itself at a crossroads with dueling party chairs and a code red financial situation. And all this comes as Michigan voters have a presidential primary on February 27th, and the GOP has a caucus on March 2nd. Thanks for joining us. I'm Kimberly Gill.
I'm Devin Scillian. The state runs the primary. MIGOP will be running the caucus to decide most of the Republican candidates for president. We bring in Mara McDonald. Mara, last night I got one email under MIGOP communications letterhead telling me Pete Hoekstra is the chair of the party. I get an email a few minutes later under MIGOP letterhead telling me it's Christina Caramo. There's in a nutshell where we are.
That's where we are, Devin. And, you know, who's in charge of March 2nd? Well, I guess tonight leaves a pretty good idea of where we're headed. Probably a scene, and here's why I say that. The Michigan GOP had its county conventions tonight. Christina Caramo attended the Oakland County Convention, tried to pass herself off as chair of the party. She was not recognized as such. They would not allow her to speak. As a matter of fact, the chair of the Oakland County Republicans called her actions tonight disruptive.
You may not always like me, but you know I'll keep my word.
In my 30 years of covering state politics, we've never seen anything like this at the Michigan GOP.
This is egregious that the RNC feels they have the authority to override the will of the state central committee and the delegates.
Christina Caramo was soundly beaten at the ballot box to become Michigan's Secretary of State, but she was then elected by the GOP delegates to become the state party chair, a tenure marred by serious financial woes, lawsuits, and election denialism. And then a revolt by former supporters who voted to remove her as chair in January, they say because of a lack of transparency. Caramo says the vote was illegitimate, but the Republican National Committee says she's not the chair. Former Congressman Pete Hoekstra is. However, Caramo is still controlling the party email and refusing to go. Is this any way to run a state party?
And it's an embarrassment is what it is, but I mean the fact of the matter is you have someone who was rightfully elected and then removed, but choosing not to go.
The bigger picture beyond the February 27th primary and the March 2nd caucus is how this impacts the electability of Republicans in a state which polling suggests is going to be hotly contested in the presidential race with all sorts of down-ballot races which could potentially flip the state house.
But I do think with Pete Hoekstra, in charge of the party and with, Rick Snyder raising money, I think what you're going to see is Republicans really focusing in trying to take back the state house.
Back here live, under Caramo's leadership, the typical donor base has fled. Pete Hoekstra, he can get his call returned, and he likely can raise money. Already, former Governor Rick Snyder has been out raising money for state House GOP candidates. Are we in a position where we could have two dueling party chairs going into the weeks and months ahead? Sure looks like it. We're live downtown tonight. I'm Mara McDonald.
Wow.
Local 4.
Amazing stuff.
Yeah.
All right, Mara. Well, residents of Kansas City coming together tonight in the face of yesterday's tragedy.
Many taking part in a somber candlelight vigil to show their support for the victims of that mass shooting following the Chiefs' Super Bowl victory parade Wednesday, and to mourn the loss of Lisa Lopez Galvan. She's a popular local radio DJ who lost her life. 22 people suffered injuries in the shooting. At least half the victims are younger than 16 years of age. The youngest just 8 years old. 2 teenagers are in custody in connection with that shooting.
Here at home, the city of Detroit is preparing safety measures for the upcoming NFL draft. Chief James White offered a tour this afternoon in DPD's real-time crime center. That's where officers monitor thousands of surveillance cameras all across the city. Chief says there will be a gun-free zone when thousands of fans descend onto downtown Detroit. They're also working with state and federal law enforcement partners. The NFL draft runs from April 25th to the 27th. It's going to be massive. A local mother is filing a $100 million lawsuit over the beating of her 10-year-old child.
Attorneys allege the child was beaten while a resident at the Hawthorne Center, currently operating at the Walter P. Reuther Psychiatric Hospital in Westland. The child was admitted for mental and emotional issues last year. The suit alleges another 15-year-old female patient attacked the 10-year-old while 5 staff members encouraged the violence.
For several seconds, she stomps and beats Princeton. She knocks his tooth up into his gum. Princeton has some brain damage behind this based on a brain imaging study.
Trusting the staff in this facility to take care of him, provide him with his needs because he's now under their care, and the fact that they were that negligent and responsible and did nothing to protect him, there's no words.
Tonight, the family is asking why no one has been arrested and why the facility is still allowed to operate. You can find Local 4 investigator Karen Drew's reports on the Hawthorne Center on our website, clickondetroit.com.
UAW President Shawn Fain firing back after comments made by Ford's CEO Jim Farley during the Wolf Research Global Auto Conference.
Ford's top executive says last fall's contentious United Auto Workers strike changed the company's relationship with the union to the point where it will, quote, think carefully about where it builds future vehicles. You may remember Ford's highly profitable factory in Louisville, Kentucky was the first truck plant that the UAW shut down with a strike.
And in response, the union president Fain released a statement that reads in part, maybe Ford doesn't need to move factories to find the cheapest labor on earth. Maybe it needs to recommit to American workers and find a CEO who's interested in the future of this country's auto industry. End of quote. Reaching new heights, the special needs and differently abled community had a chance to go indoor skydiving. This is such a cool story.
It really is great. It's part of the All Abilities program at iFly in Novi. Jacqueline Francis gives us an up-close look at the fun.
Just look, they're flying, something many never imagined possible until now.
Shoes off first makes it easier.
Flying is super easy. iFly sees customers with varying abilities.
Programs for kids to teach them how to fly, skydivers.
From expert flyers to those whose abilities are sometimes limited.
I think we have about 35 flyers tonight.
All Abilities Night welcomes the special needs and differently abled community.
I think this is pretty cool, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
The program is headed up by an expert flyer with a connection to the cause.
I was born with spina bifida. I have basically no feeling from the waist down. I have prosthetic legs as well. So I started this program to teach people just like me that we can fly.
The wind tunnel gives these flyers a freedom they can't find on the ground.
There's no other cares in the world when you're in the tunnel. You're in there with yourself and the instructor.
Emily's dad, Jim, says this is their second time back, and already she's reaching new heights.
She just couldn't get enough of it. She was all smiles all night long. She enjoyed flying. The instructors were great. They were great with her, and been a great experience from start to finish.
iFly hosts All Abilities Night 4 times throughout the year. Be sure to sign up in advance because they do fill up. Reporting in Novi, Jacqueline Francis, Local 4.
I love that.
Just awesome.
Yep.
Yeah.
We've got a really chilly night on hand after kind of a buffet of weather earlier today.
You're right, but I guess this is the temperature that it should be, Kim, this time of year.
I know, and we got so spoiled that week where we had the very warm temperatures. This is normal for this time of year, but it'll be a little below normal for the next couple of days. But right now, Exact Track 4D radar, pretty quiet, a couple flurries up into the thumb, but otherwise no problems. That lake effect snow machine is still cranking out some snow showers from the UP down to Alpena over to Grand Rapids, and a few of those are breaking off. That's why you've got a couple flurries again up into the thumb. No problems for your morning commute tomorrow, but it is going to be chilly. We've dropped from 40 down to 34 in the city just within the last few hours. 29 already in Pontiac, 29 in Howell, 30 in Ann Arbor, and 31 in Monroe. Let's talk about the snow totals today, anywhere between 1 and 3 inches. Those 3-inch totals north of I-69, where we expected those totals to be higher, but most of Metro Detroit saw anything from about 1.5 inches up to around 2 inches. I thought this was interesting. Plymouth, Port Huron, Roseville, White Lake, and Goodrich, all scattered all over southeast lower Michigan, but each one picking up exactly 1.5 inches of snow. Tomorrow, we start out at 25 degrees. We only make it to 33, but there's a 50-degree day in that future forecast. I'll tell you which one it is coming up.
All right, Kim.